special guest speaker. What, Jim?
I said 3 cheers for our first responders.
Yes, yes.
Yay.
It always catches me off guard, but of course that's our
Love
cue. So welcome everybody to LifeQuest. We have you on Facebook. We have you in our Zoom room, and we are really thrilled to welcome Jim Pfiefer. Many of you know Jim. He is an important part of our city. He's an architect right here in Little Rock. He's been a part of some pretty big projects like the Big Dam Bridge, the Capitol Hotel restorations. He's the founder of the Heights Garden, and he is the founder of 2 Facebook pages, History in the Heights and Friends of the Terry Mansion. We've been talking about that Friends of the Terry Mansion in some other classes. I see Leon nodding. So that's exciting, Jim, that you started that Facebook page. He writes articles for Heights Living and Hillcrest Life magazines because as an architect, he has a passion for historic preservation. Today, he's going to be talking about something, it's a niche interest, I would say, wouldn't you say, Jim? Kind of a specialty in the history of the Heights. This is murder in the Heights. And he is in his wife, Robin Zinzer's office. She's a chiropractor. And what are you going to show us from her office today, Jim?
Well, I'm helping my wife in her clinic, and got her little logo cap on, Heights Clinic. And today, so I wanted to say that chiropractic is a wonderful field, but being in the office sometimes it's a little scary. For example, this is some of the decoration in our office. We have full bones here, and then over here we have a skull. So it's sort of like being in, having Halloween 365 days a year. So, but
it's a pretty perfect location to present your topic today, actually.
So with that, we'll try to get in the mode of beginning Murder in the Heights.
Okay. So, well, hey, Jim is going to open up his PowerPoint, but while he's doing that, I mean, this is some true crime stuff. So, of course, we are respectful of the real people and the real families that were affected by the true crime, but it's really fascinating, and also just to know what has happened in the past in our city, in our neighborhood. Many of us would be familiar with these places. So I don't see, Gina may have to step in.
Okay.
Oh.
Jim, have you pushed the share screen button? Oh, I don't hear Jim.
Hello?
There you are.
Is that okay?
We don't see your screen yet. So can you see Zoom? All right, I see you in Zoom. So now at the top of that, press the green share button. Share content. And if you want to talk me through what you're pressing, I'll make sure you keep on step.
Start broadcast?
Yes. Okay. And then you do the double button. And then Murder in the Heights is what you're going to touch. All right.
Great.
And now you're ready to go and just slide it up.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, welcome everyone. And thank you to LifeQuest for having me here. It's a wonderful institution. I'm really grateful for all you do. Today, we're talking about a terrible tragedy that occurred in the Heights, 1943. I don't usually write about such things, usually write positive stories about the people and the architecture in the Heights with a view towards preserving the history of the Heights. But about quite a few years ago, many of you knew Peg Smith, Mrs. George Rose Smith. She was a wonderful person and knew everything about the history of the city of Little Rock. And my family and I were taking her to dinner one night, and we were driving through Prospect Terrace on Edgewood, and she pointed to a house, and she kind of whispered to me, and she said there was a murder that happened there. And for some reason, I didn't ask her more about it. She didn't seem to want to elaborate on it. So a couple of years ago, I was on that same street researching a house across the street from the house that she pointed to, and I noticed it, and I was on my way to the library. And when I got to the library, I did a little bit of research, and in a very short period, I had a whole stack of front page headlines about the Browning murder. Let me talk just a little bit about Prospect Terrace. For some of you may not know about it. This is a home built by Sidney Kahn, who developed Prospect Terrace, located at sort of the top of Kavanaugh, right as you get into the Heights. And Sidney Kahn, who incidentally is the uncle of Jane Moses and great uncle of Jimmy Moses, a wonderful developer in the city. Sidney's father was Herman Kahn, who built the Marion Hotel, Little Rock's largest hotel in Arkansas for a long time. He named it for his wife, Marion, and he bought this land at the top of, as you arrive in the Heights, and he developed it. He hired a guy named Henry Wright from St. Louis, a landscape architect who had worked on the World's Fair in St. Louis, to lay out the subdivision. And it wasn't your typical grid. It was kind of lazy, rolling, curving streets that had little parks where they intersected. You know, really, really nice upscale subdivision. This is another house. Incidentally, this house is by Max Mayer, an architect. This is another house in Prospect Terrace, the Johnson House, designed by an architect named H. Ray Burks. This gives you kind of the English Revival style. This gives you a taste of what Prospect Terrace is today. And this is the Browning house. And this is a house that Mrs. Smith pointed to. Harry and Julia Browning built this house in 1928. It's in a kind of an English style with the half timbering, and the flat tile roofs kind of simulate wood shingles that would have been on English projects of the same style. Dr. Browning was a physician on the staff of St. Vincent's and Missouri Pacific Hospital. He unfortunately passed away at an early age in 1933, left Mrs. Browning to raise their 5 boys. By 1943, the boys, 3 of the boys were away from home. 2 of them were in the armed services fighting in World War II. One was in the Med Corps and the other in the Air Force. One of the other brothers was studying for the priesthood at a seminary at Lake Charles, Louisiana. And the 2 youngest boys, Billy and Jimmy, were at Catholic high school. Billy was a senior and Jimmy was a sophomore. So the next thing that we know is that Billy was and Jimmy were at Catholic High on October 1st, 1943. And Billy got a ride home with a friend and walked to this house. And the next thing we knew is that he's running across the street to the Brizolera's home, yelling that his mother had been murdered. Mrs. Brizolera accompanied him to the house, and she found Mrs. Browning on the floor of the sunroom in a pool of blood with some area rugs sort of laying over her head. The city of Little Rock and the state was shocked by the headlines that Julia Browning had been bludgeoned to death. The Mrs. Brizolera called the police and an ambulance, and the investigation began. The Brownings were well-respected members of the community, as you can imagine. They had friends in every in 2 generations. The boys were immensely popular and had many friends. So the city was really on edge. And remember, this was during World War II, and there were a lot of homes with just women and children, and not that women can't protect themselves, but it was just a doubly upsetting situation with so many men fighting a war and a murder occurring in broad daylight in one of the nicest areas of our city. This is a floor plan that shows the living room here, and the sun parlor is at the top, and that was where the body was found. The Blondie, the dog, the pet of the house, was also bludgeoned to death with the same instrument. There was no sign of the murder weapon, and so this shows a photo of the prosecuting attorneys in the center. It's Sam Robinson. He plays a huge role in this case. He had never lost a case, either as an attorney or prosecuting attorney. And he's there with 2 detectives in the sunroom of the house. There are some unusual situations that had occurred. Mrs. Browning was known to be extremely careful. She instructed her boys never to open the door to any strangers. The windows and doors were always kept locked. And also, the house was disheveled from top to bottom. There were drawers opened and emptied on the beds, floor, but again, the community was shocked to learn that there were hundreds of dollars in cash left in full view around the bedroom and various rooms in Mrs. Browning's purse and so on. Also, the murder weapon was nowhere to be found. They searched the grounds over and over, dug holes, looked under everything in the attic, nothing, no murder weapon. So the town is really upset. And I'm reading headlines. Remember, this is World War II, all the horrible things that are going on in Europe, and the Browning murder captures the headlines of the Arkansas Gazette and the Democrat each day. The funeral of Mrs. Browning was, the held at St. Andrews. For St. Andrews was our premier Catholic cathedral. It was designed by Thomas Harding in 1881, and the steeple was completed in 1887. It was our tallest building in Arkansas until the state capitol dome was finished. The cathedral was packed, and it was led by Monsignor O'Connor and Monsignor Francis Allen, two legends in Catholic history in Arkansas. It's a photo of Mrs. Browning. Miss Browning was the daughter of Louis Coors, who was a major carriage builder in the late 1800s in Little Rock, and he began selling automobiles once they were, invented. This thing went on for days. Headlines continued. There was no progress. There were no clues. There were no suspects. The Sam Robinson was extremely frustrated. The police chief and the mayor were getting calls. People were scared, and there was no progress in the thing until the seventh day, when the headlines read that sorry, 17-year-old Billy Browning, model student, football player, guy with many friends, admits to bludgeoning his mother to death. The prosecuting attorney stated that young Browning admitted that he came home. He had an argument with his mother. She knocked something off of the table that he'd been working on. He studying aeronautics. He wanted to be a pilot, and he built model planes, and she had damaged a very large plane, and he struck her, and then he picked up an object and killed her. And this was the headline. And of course, the community was shocked at this. He was so well thought of, and it was, very upsetting to, of course, the family. And the next day, the headlines read that Billy Browning refutes everything. He did not kill his mother. He came home. He found her dead. He ran across the street. He was coerced into making this statement. He was held for 12 hours without attorneys, without adults. His brother was being held, he was told, until he admitted the crime. No water, no food, no bathroom. He was coerced. He didn't do it. Sam Robinson said, this case is closed. I'm going to the grand jury, and I'm going for the electric chair. We've got a confession, and we're moving forward with it. The case is closed. And I wanted to read the names of the grand jury who indicted Billy Browning, just in case some of you may know them. Was Randall Falk, Harold May, Roy Cumpy, William Steinkamp, Earl Rossner, James Lynch, James Gates, Paul Litsky, Robert Fenton, August Probst, Arch Matthews, A.L. Justin, R.M. Warner, H.R. Colbert, and Frank Eisman. So Sam Robinson says, I'm taking this to court. Judge Gus Folk was the judge chosen for the trial. He, of course, is a well-known name. Several generations of folks are very well thought of and major contributors to our community. And this is Billy in the center. The case, and this happened really fast. The murder took place 1st of October, and by 1st of December, the trial had begun at our Pulaski County Courthouse. The courtroom was packed. News people were there from all over the state. It was really the biggest thing in this town, and huge publicity. Judge Folk shocked the courtroom. He banged the gavel to call the court to order, and he immediately asked the jurors to leave the room, and he announced that the confession will not be admissible, that it was coerced, that there should be no mention of it, nothing about that in the trial. Well, Sam Robinson, the prosecuting attorney, went ballistics. He was extremely upset. That was his case. And but Judge Folk would not budge. Sam Robinson he asked for a short recess. He contacted Griffin Smith, who was the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court in Arkansas, asked him to immediately convene the court and to overrule Judge Folk. And Judge Smith did convene his court, but they decided that they could not make a judgment on the case without proper documentation and all of the evidence. So the trial went on, and it lasted 6 days, and Billy Browning was acquitted, became a free man. He had been in jail for a month and a half, and so he's walking out of jail, and he's a free man. Sam Robinson does not quit. He goes to the Supreme Court to get them to overrule Judge Folk, even after the jury determined that Billy was innocent. And the Supreme Court met and unanimously overruled Judge Folk. They said that it's up to the jury to decide whether confession is admissible and not the judge. But as we know, and as you suspect, the Fifth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution has a clause called double jeopardy. You cannot try a person twice for the same crime. Billy Browning was a free man. So is the case closed? Well, this is a little historical document from Smith's Drugstore, which really is symbolic that this town could talk of nothing else than the Browning murder. Who did it? Why they did it? Where's the murder weapon? It was a continual discussion. Meanwhile, the Browning boys announced that they would offer a reward, but they quickly left town. They sold the house, had an estate sale, and the Browning boys were gone, never to return to Little Rock. This is a photograph of the Browning house today. It's really loved by its longtime owner. This is the sunroom, which is turned into a beautiful dining room. And I, you know, as a writer, I received a lot of feedback. I got calls from people in their 90s who were there and everyone had a different idea about who killed Julia Browning. Now, what happened to Billy Browning is staggering. He went to the University of Arkansas, where he had a hard time getting in a fraternity because of all the publicity, but he was brought in by his many friends. Graduated from the University of Arkansas and went to Texas Law School, where he graduated. He moved to Wichita Falls, Texas, where he practiced law and became a judge. So that's the end of my presentation. Are there any questions?
Well, thank you very much. I don't see any questions right now, but I do see some people unmuting their microphones. So let me go ahead and help you first take down your slideshow, and we'll see if you can get back to Zoom so that you can see who you're interacting with.
Janet, you want to go ahead with your question? Do you have one? Janet Brown?
I'm an observation. I think it's interesting. The town I lived in at that time, we never locked our doors at night. And I lived in a middle class, pleasant little city like Little Rock growing up. I think it's unusual that that Miss Browning always insisted on locking the doors and not opening the door to strangers. That was inconceivable as I was growing up. Any comments about that by people?
Well, I would like to mention that some of the feedback that I received from the people that are sort of legendary in our community, people whose names you would recognize. The only one that really said I could use his name was Sterling Cockrell. And Sterling was a very good friend of Billy Browning's, and he heard about this when he was in training for the Army, and he hitchhiked from Batesville, where he was in training, to meet with Billy during the period that he was incarcerated. I also heard from, Sterling said that there was no way that this boy could have killed his mother. And then I received a call from a woman whose last name and whose family's business is, you know, a household word here. And she said that she has no doubt but that Billy Browning killed his mother. She had seen him fight his brother kind of violently at Little Rock Country Club, pushed him in the pool, and she was worried that he would drown him. And I also heard from the fellow who gave Billy Browning a ride back to his home from Catholic High, who said that he was the finest friend that he ever had, and there's no way he could have done this. I heard from a retired judge here in Little Rock that's well known, that you all know, that he has no doubt that Billy Browning was capable of this crime, that he was his counselor at Camp Quapaw and Boy Scout camp, and that he characterized him as sadistic, that he, treated the campers very poorly.
Well, that's not a good recommendation. It's kind of an indictment, isn't it, in itself? Your camp counselor says you're sadistic. What other comments or questions? Joe Jones, you're unmuted. Did you have a?
Leon's
Yeah.
had his hand up for a
Oh,
minute.
I'm sorry. I didn't see you, Leon, and then we'll see who else.
Leon, it appears as though even though it says you're unmuted, we're not able to hear you. So if you want to unmute yourself or mute yourself and unmute yourself and try again.
Or try
Us.
type it in the chat, and we will tell Jim what you have to say. And while he's doing that, does anybody else have a question?
Joe, if she wanted to go ahead and relay her question.
Yes, I'm just wondering, they never found the murder weapon, even though they I'm losing the word here, even though they forced him into a confession, you would think they would have also forced him to tell where the murder weapon was.
That figured into the whole discussion, all of the headlines continually. The murder weapon was never found. When, as part of the report in the newspaper on the confession, it stated that Billy admitted that he said that he picked up an object and struck his mother, but it was vague about what that object was and what happened to it. So it was never clear. The murder weapon was never found. And some of the kids who grew up in that neighborhood said that they would, it sounds a little weird, but they would search for the murder weapon as a pastime, digging behind bushes and things of that sort.
Leon writes, I have a hard time believing that an 18-year-old boy would kill his own pet dog, but then, his mom as well. So if he,
The mom I could believe.
oh, now we
But
can hear you.
the mom I could believe, but adding the dog into the mix makes it hard for me to believe that he would be the perpetrator.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what Virginia Kazort allowed us to use her name, and she gave a statement that I can read it here. She said she was a neighbor of the Brownings. She said, every time I pass that house, I think of the Brownings and Bill, who was arrested for the murder and badly treated at the jail. It was really awful. Bill was a sweet boy, used to come over sometimes and use the old swing on the big oak tree. And I'm sure he wouldn't have killed his mother or his Cocker Spaniel, Blondie.
Meg, do you have a question?
Yeah, I want to add to the dog thing.
Okay. Go ahead.
If he was the sadist that the people from the camp say he was, 1, 2, the fact that the 2 brothers moved away, I'm pretty sure he could kill the dog. And also an 18-year-old boy would have this moment of, the dog just saw everything. You would kill the dog. It's sort of weirdly, the dog's a witness. Jim, that was a great presentation. I am so glad that Howard told me you were doing this today. It was phenomenal. But I do want to ask one question. The brother, do we have any word on whatever happened to the brother?
Well, that's interesting. I get involved in these things, obviously, and I located the little brother, Jimmy. The 3 older brothers are deceased, as is Billy Browning. The younger brother is, when I contacted him about a year and a half ago, I located him in Alabama. He's a retired physician, and he answered the phone. And when I told him why I was calling, that I wanted to make sure that everything I was writing was accurate. He merely said that he did not have anything to say and hung up.
Wow.
I also contacted Billy's 5 children, and none of them would speak to me.
You're
So,
brave. You're brave to do that. I was
well,
just, thinking,
also, I would like to mention that there's a neighbor who was a little boy who still lives in the neighborhood. And I asked him who he thinks, I asked him what he thinks about it. And he kind of quietly said, well, if your mother was killed, wouldn't you stick around and try to find out who did it? He said that supposedly they had hired a detective, but that no one ever came to their house to ask any questions. Of course, you can answer, I tried to refute everything that I heard. And by that, you can say, well, on the other hand, if I'm, if there's been this brutal killing, why would I want to stick around? So
yeah.
he had a life to live, and he lived it. And Billy Browning, I talked to people in Wichita Falls who had nothing but high praise for Judge Browning.
Was that confession, the coercion actually confirmed to be true? The coercion part of it.
Well, it was really Billy Browning against the entire police department. And there were as many as 5 or 6 people in that room for 12 hours with Billy Browning. And Billy, there was one thing that was particularly telling, is that he never signed the confession.
Hey, Jim, I want to be able to see you. If you could get back to Zoom so we can see your face.
Get back to Zoom.
What do you see right now?
I see the Browning murder.
Yeah.
Okay,
Zoom.
double tap the home button. And then if you see Zoom,
You see me?
not yet.
Yeah,
Oh,
we
do
do.
you? Oh yeah, now we do. There you are.
Okay, I'm down in the corner. Yeah. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I did want to put a plug in for next week's presentation. Can I do that?
Sure. Tell us
Yeah.
what you're
Yeah,
going to.
next week's presentation, it is called The Topless Cellist and Other Superheroes from Our Town.
I think I
And
said nude cellist in the.
either way, there's really it's a debate about whether there's a whole lot of difference, but it's basically not what you think exactly. It's really more of my positive stories about people who have grown up in Little Rock, who have accomplished great things. Their houses are still preserved, and it's my way of talking about that. It takes just 10 minutes of a bulldozer to tear down 100 years of history. So I'm hoping that some of my writings will encourage people to keep their historic homes, unlike what we see in the Heights, where outside my window here, where many houses have been destroyed. So
We have been talking particularly about the Terry Mansion in one of our classes with a historian, Steve Teskey. The class is Notorious Arkansans. We've talked about the Fletchers, the Goulds, the Terrys. And who else am I missing, Leon? Oh, you're muted. Sorry, everybody gets muted.
The Pikes.
Pikes. Oh, Albert Pike, of course. So just interested to hearing how these classes kind of overlap sometimes in time.
yeah, that's a very unfortunate situation where a very, very generous woman donated her property to the city and the art center, and it has been abandoned. And now instead of looking for a solution to this, instead of making repairs to the home, the wonderful heirs of the Terry family have had to resort to filing a lawsuit against the Arkansas Art Center. And this is a time when we should be celebrating the Arkansas Art Center for its wonderful new building. But instead, they have allowed this to happen, and it's very unfortunate. I'm hoping that the Art Center will come to its senses, negotiate an end to the lawsuit, find a way to for grants or funds or whatever to repair that house and find a user who will respect it in the future.
Wouldn't the city of Little Rock play a role in that as well? I mean, the gift was actually given to the city to be used as in some kind of arts function, which how it happened to get to the Arts Center. So the gift itself was not a sustainable gift for the Arts Center, but the city did accept it with those conditions. So it would seem to me the city has some role in all this.
It was deeded to the city of Little Rock for use by the Arkansas Art Center. Arkansas Art Center Board voted to accept it. And they also participated in the raising of a permanent endowment. $1.5 million was raised. I've been a member of nonprofit boards, and our main focus on those boards have been to preserve and properly use our permanent endowment. This endowment is gone. Where did it go? And it was handled by the Arkansas Art Center. They used the building, they spent the money, they abandoned the building. So it's a combination of parties, you're right.
So more to come on that topic and other stories from.
But I hope I haven't scared you away for next week. They're gonna be really positive stories, and you'll enjoy the nude and/or topless cellist. She's actually a wonderful person, and she came straight out of Little Rock.
Oh, I think your title will probably get people to come back. Something tells me. We just really appreciate having Jim Pfiefer, architect and historian and writer, on the LifeQuest stages with his skull. Here, in his wife's office, chiropractor Robin Zinter. We're having you on your Facebook page, the LifeQuest of Arkansas Facebook page, and the LifeQuest Fall 2021 Facebook page, and Zoom. So we're just flying around the World Wide Web today, and we just appreciate you so much, Jim, for being with us and for coming back next week at noon on Wednesday as our special guest speaker. Thank you very much. Thanks everyone for coming.
Thank you. Thank you, Jim.
Wonderful.
Wonderful job, Jim. You did great.
Yes.
Thank you very much.